Alright guys, so here's what I've got as the beginning of Project Goliath, the biggest RC Connects truck ever made. What I've got here is the back axle and front axle, and in this video I'm going to show you guys why I went this route, and I'll explain all the little rods here in a minute, and describe to you how this is all going to work, what the motor is, what kind of gearing we've got, how it steers. So let's jump right into it. Starting with the front axle, if you guys are familiar with how monster trucks look, you'll usually see two bars on each side going down towards the front axle, and same with the rear. What I've got going on here is a parallel 4-link, so those 4 rods are all going to go to the chassis. This rod here is called a panhard. What that little rod does is keep the axle centered. Without a panhard bar, these 4 parallel links would just flop all over the place left and right. So that just really locks them in. And then the vertical blue rods that you see, those are where the springs are going to be going into little receivers on the frame. So it'll be just a coilover with parallel 4-link and panhard bar. This here is the front of the axle. What we've got is our tie rod that runs from left to right. What it does is keep the tires parallel with each other so that when the servo on the back pushes and pulls on this side, it goes through the knuckle, which is that vertical piece holding the tire on to the whole axle assembly. And then the steering motion goes over here and turns that one, like this. Now this is not a driven front axle. As you can see right inside there, the gray rod running horizontal just goes through the wheel on this side. I had to really figure out how to stiffen it up quite a bit, so that's why there's several layers with the little gear lock right here going through the red triangle. There's another gear lock, and then through a black 8-way connector, and then there's a little gray one on the other side. That just keeps the rod just from doing all this and giving me a lot of weird camber look. And that's really about all there is on the front suspension. The rear suspension, kind of the same thing. It'll be a 4-link. I don't have the panhard bar on here yet, or the little posts sticking up to be the coilovers. But you'll see a whole bunch of gears and all sorts of stuff going on. And what we've got back here is a 21-turn 550 motor that's able to run on 3S. It is brushed. This is essentially the whole back axle. I know it's definitely on the big side, but it kind of had to be this way. I needed to gear reduct this thing. I don't have a pinion gear on the motor just yet. I still got to make something there. But it goes through 4 different gear sets, giving me just about 34-to-1 gear ratio. And in the center here is an open differential. And what that does, so the motor's powering all those gears going down, down, and down. All the power from the motor is going into this red gear, but this red gear is not technically attached to either axle, left or right. What it is attached to is this little piece right here in the middle with the 2 gray gears, top and bottom. And what that allows is that when I take a corner with this truck, it allows one tire to move faster or slower than the other. Now, I don't have gear locks on the tires yet, so they are just spinning on the axle without actually spinning the differential. But this is just your very typical open differential. Pretty much every vehicle has that same setup. It's been the same thing for like 100 years. Very common layout. I mean, you look underneath, an 85 F-150 or pull apart the front of a new Peugeot, it'll have the same generic. There are a few different types of this, but this is the most common. So this is going to be the whole back axle. We've got the front axle, and I would like the front and rear 4-link bars to just about meet up in the middle, maybe an inch or so apart. So that's what kind of wheelbase we have. And just to give you guys some kind of scale perspective, here is a AA battery. Yeah, it's going to be huge. So just here's a little update for Project Goliath. And I hope you guys like. If you guys want to see this build go through its fruition, go ahead and like and subscribe. It would mean the world to me. And just stay tuned, and as I make some stuff, it'll be posted on here. I think up next is time to make a chassis. Now for the front axle, I decided to go with a straight axle versus this here. This is just a simple representation. This is independent front suspension. There we go. There just wasn't a good way to build this and have it actually strong enough to hold the wheels upright. No matter how big I really built this, it was always going to be really floppy and flexy. And from a top view, as you can see, there's just a lot of leverage acting out on it, so any kind of bump would just probably tear the control arms off. But this here, just to show you guys, this is your typical independent front suspension, double wishbone. It's got a sway bar across the back. And what that sway bar does is, as one side of the suspension is compressed, this little bar is now twisting. You can see this arm right here. And it has the torsional springiness through this rod trying to pick up on this side. So as you go through a corner and the car is weighed down over here, taking a little bit of spring rate off this side and letting it settle back, trying to make it even. The steering, very typical. Just like that. This suspension has pretty much no bump steer, only because all the angles are correct, or at least as close as they can be for K'NEX. But there just wasn't a way to do this and have it actually strong enough to handle almost 8 inches tall of tire. So, but that's still a fun-looking representation. I just figured a straight axle in the front is a lot stronger. The rear axle, shy of me getting some small RCU joints that are like 6mm ID, which I have done in the past. I could do a swing arm axle, but I just didn't want independent front or rear, especially with trying to squeeze in a differential, as you guys saw previously in the video with the whole back axle unit. But I just wanted to show you guys that independent is great. It's very fun to build. It looks cool, but it's just not going to be strong enough to handle what I need it to. You know, if you're working with this size of K'NEX tire, or maybe even the tires from the all-terrain Trekker, possibly. But you guys can see from the scale here, this is about the same size as the front axle that I had built to handle the huge tires. You guys can see just how huge this is, because if you guys have one of these, you know how big this is, and there's probably 5 or 6 of them across. It's just absolutely massive. So, there we go. Independent is great, not what I needed for this purpose. Oh, one more thing I forgot to show you guys. The servo is just mounted right here on the back. It turns out that the typical hobby grade servos, if you screw them onto a connector like that, they're just about the right spacing to really work well with K'NEX with a white rod in between the two. So that's kind of nice to find out. But there it is. One steering axle, one driving axle.